Okay, says I'm live. Hey, there's Brandon. All right, I'm back. Good grief. This internet problem is crazy. Thanks, guys, for being patient. I appreciate that. We're going to give everybody a minute to kind of get back over here. Yep, I made it back, Bob. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for being patient with me. I appreciate that. Got it says we only got one participant in here. I got to do something about this internet. This is ridiculous. Hey, Henry, good to see you too. Thanks for joining. All right, I don't know who all's here. I got comments from the other one. I was right in the middle of answering, and then all of a sudden, lost connection. There we go. Andrew's here. Okay, Andrew, I think I was answering one of your questions, wasn't I? Talking about your egg problem. So I think Verna is doing a pretty good job of answering your questions. I was in the middle of saying that your birds were not overcrowded. If you got, I can't remember how many you said and it was now, that you said that they were like 19 and a 25 square foot. That's nowhere near overcrowded. So that's fine. I saw some back and forth about maybe a predator's pressuring them or something like that. Maybe, honestly, like I said, if you've got them outside, even with light on them, I usually see a big drop in egg production this time of year. Just because it's hard to keep them laying, with the days as short as they are. Porcupine Acres wants to know, how long do you refresh your quail stock? I try to bring some new blood in every couple of years. It just depends. Sometimes it's once a year. Sometimes it's once every 2 or 3 years. But usually on the average, every probably 2 years, try to bring some new stock in. Blessed with Pets says, my current cages are 30 by 36 do more cages. And I want to eventually connect 2 of them for each rabbit. So it'll be 6 foot by 30 inches for each rabbit. I should be able to fit 12 cages. Well, that doesn't sound bad at all. So good luck. I hope that works. G. Michael says, says folks are making their way in. Well, good. I'm glad everybody made it over here. Verna says it was inches, not feet. And what was in? What now? I'm lost. What is inches? I don't know. Jarina says, let's see. My quail is standing like a flamingo. He hobbled around when walking. What can I do to help him? Check for bumblefoot. Bumblefoot is a pretty common thing. It's not uncommon for quail to have some kinds of leg injuries. A lot of times they just get over them. I noticed my quail kind of hobble around for a couple of days, and then they're fine after a little while too. But I would check, since he's holding his foot up, there's probably some kind of either leg injury or foot injury there. Check for bumblefoot, check the pads of his feet, and make sure there's not like an abscess or a thorn or something like that stuck in it. If it's infected, you're going to need to remove whatever's causing that infection, a splinter, a piece of sand, a piece, whatever. Get that out of there. You may have to kind of, cut it open a little bit carefully and remove whatever it is that's in there. And you can treat it with antibiotic ointment. Clean it out real good. Treat it with antibiotic ointment. Don't use one with pain reliever in it. Just a regular antibiotic ointment, and that should help him. You might try soaking it in an Epsom salt bath for a little while first. That will help soften it up, make it a little bit easier to work on as well. And then, sometimes, like I said, sometimes they just get leg injuries. They're pretty prone to kind of having leg injuries. They sprang it, whatever. A lot of times they just get over it. They're fine after a couple of days or a week. John says, I teach on Thursday night, but tonight class was canceled. And while I felt badly about that, I thought, hey, I can catch Mr. Chris's live broadcast. Well, thanks, John. Almost failed. Almost had to cancel the second half of the broadcast, lost internet connection. And then, I don't know. I did see your comment over there, Amy, about at least it froze during an action shot. I don't know what it froze during. I couldn't see it froze on my end. I just lost the connection all of a sudden. But anyway, Amy says, Jarena, have you looked at the flamingo leg, swollen foot, or other joints? Yeah, that's a good suggestion as well. Johnny says, as far as cooking quail, the wife soaks it in buttermilk and uses flour to coat them before throwing them in the air fryer. I've never tried that, so I can't speak to that, but doesn't sound bad. Sounds like, the way you would do fried chicken, basically. Oh, 19 inches by 24 inches on the cage. Oh, okay. It wasn't 19 birds in a 24 square foot cage. It was a 19 inch by 24 inch cage. I don't know how many birds you got in there. I was completely off track, wasn't I? I'm sorry. Sometimes that happens. I assume I know what I'm talking about, and I don't. So let's see. We got a question from Jennifer. It says, why would my quail eggs get smaller? Nothing has changed in the water or feed. The good question. I mean, sometimes you're going to get smaller eggs. Sometimes you're going to get larger eggs. I don't know anything that would cause the eggs to just suddenly get smaller. Unless you said there's no change in feed or water. So the only thing I could think of, and I don't even know that this is true necessarily, is that if you switch to a much lower protein feed, it might have some effect on that, but I think it would have more of an effect on how frequently they lay before it would have an effect on the size of the egg. I really don't know. Does anybody know why eggs would start getting smaller? Other than, are they fairly young birds? Did they just start laying? Because if that's the case, then, it could be that they're just, sorry, I got a notification that I'm live on my channel again. If they just started laying not too long ago, I mean, you're going to get smaller eggs, bigger eggs, weird eggs, until they kind of get into a cycle of it. So if it's just been like a couple of days or it might be a day or two of getting the smaller eggs, don't worry about it. Just give them a little bit of time. Verna's asking how old they are too. That's another question. Amy says PVC coated wire is a serious game changer for foot injuries. Does anyone know if it comes in 3-foot widths? I've heard that as well. I've often thought about switching over to PVC coated wire. I don't have huge problems with leg injuries, but I do get them every once in a while. So, I think that the issue with the regular hardware cloth is that it's a pretty small gauge, and I think that's the problem. You get a PVC coated, it's a little bit bigger gauge, so it's a bigger diameter wire that they're standing on, and that can help a little bit. It makes sense. I mean, but I don't have that many problems with leg injuries, so I don't know honestly where you can get PVC coated wire on it. I think it comes in 3-foot wide rolls, but I don't really know. Oh, excuse me. Oh, yawning. Jennifer says, Verna, I absolutely love my quail book I ordered from you. Thanks. Well, that's awesome. I'll let you guys talk about that a little bit. Hey, Little Ridge Farm, good to see you. Let's see. Yeah, Amy says, I'm going to have to try that air fryer. To Johnny, going to have to try that. Air fryers are perfect quail size. Yeah, they are. Yeah. Verna says, Chris, you're human. We all misread at times. Yeah, I do it pretty frequently. I'm pretty good at that. Let's see. G. Michael says, question, when do you start ramping your quail count up after winter times? I usually do that. I mean, it just depends on the weather. Once we start getting to where, most of the nights are not getting down below freezing, then I'll go ahead and start collecting eggs and go ahead and start incubating and ramping up. It just depends a lot on what I've got going on, what the weather's doing. But usually it's going to be somewhere around, late April, early May, somewhere right around in there, maybe mid-May. Starmy says, I have watched your YouTube videos. This is the first live chat, but I wanted to get into the quail. Do I need any kind of permit? I live in Ohio. You shouldn't need one. Verna can probably answer that a little bit better than I can because I'm not in Ohio, but if you're looking at raising Coturnix quail, they're not a native bird. So generally speaking, you're not going to need a permit for them. The only thing you're going to need a permit for is if you were going to raise like bob whites or, something that's native bird, that's going to require a permit. But non-native, they're considered like chickens, like a poultry, something like that. And there's not usually any kind of permit that's required for them. Jennifer says, Verna, no molting. Did I miss something from Jennifer? About the eggs. Okay, the eggs getting smaller. Yeah, usually, I mean, molting's a good thought, but usually molting means they stop laying, not they just they start getting smaller. They're 4 months old. Um, there's a lot of different things. I don't know right offhand. I'm gonna see what other people say too. Blessed with Pets says the only thing I can do. The only thing is I can do 12 if I stack them, but 6 if I don't stack them. And the trays are expensive, but the cages are only $40 each. But since I will be connecting 2 per rabbit, it would be about $80. Yeah, you're gonna have to figure out your trays for sure. You could do that a number of different ways. I don't know how it's set up. You could do that with like roofing panels, like those clear roofing panels that you just put under at an angle to where you don't necessarily have a tray there, but you would have it where the poop slides off the back of it into a catch bucket or something like that. That's a thought too. Porcupine says cut the light off 2 weeks ago and still getting flooded with eggs. You're lucky. Usually mine's shut down. But yeah, it does take a little bit of time for it to kick in, like Verna's saying. But 2 weeks ago, I would say they're probably about ready to stop laying anytime. Andrew says, Andrew says no. It is 19 birds and 25 square foot. So I was right, Verna. You read it wrong, I think, maybe. All right. That's okay, though. It's fine. Verna says if it's Coturnix, you do not need a permit in Ohio. Yeah, Amy says in Ohio. Chris is correct. Yeah. Little Ridge Farm says, yeah, coated wire does come in 36-inch width. I bought mine off of Amazon to build my cages. Too bad I won't get to use them. Why would you not get to use them? That's terrible. Verna says, Chris, mine molted and still laid. Yeah, mine usually stop laying when they're molting. Very seldom do they continue to lay. But, yeah, good. I'm glad they did. Bob says, please confirm eggs collected waiting for enough to incubate. Did you say keep them cool, not refrigerated? Did you say last week 50 to 60 degrees? Yeah, don't stress about that too much. But, yeah, you don't really want to put them in the refrigerator. That gets awful cold. What I usually do with mine is I put them in a cooler with like one of those freezer ice packs. I have 2 of them. So I just put one of those, you stick them in the freezer and, freeze them. And then you put them in your cooler to keep your cooler cool. I put them in there with one of those. I set them in egg trays or egg cartons that are set at an angle. And then the next day I switch them around. So they're no longer tilted this way. They're tilted this way. And then I put a fresh ice pack in there. Ideal temperature is going to be somewhere between 50 to 65 degrees, somewhere right around in there. But it's not that strict. Don't stress about it too much. As long as you're not getting them up above about 85 degrees and not below about 40 degrees, you should be fine. All right. Starmy says, thanks, everyone. Well, you are welcome. Yeah, I'm kind of curious Amy wants to know, Little Ridge Farm, why aren't you using your cages? I'm kind of curious on that one, too. James Carter says, I had a female to lay an olive-colored egg, and it seems she is not laying anymore. Any thoughts on that? Well, olive, you're asking Verna, but I'll give my thoughts on it, too. Olive-colored eggs I know what you're talking about. I've seen those before. They're just normal. There's no correlation between that and her not laying anymore, necessarily. Why she's not laying? I mean, there's a number of reasons. 2 most common are lack of light and stress. So if there's a stress factor with them, predators, maybe if it's persistent predator problem, then yeah, that could definitely be a stress factor for them. But just a one time, like, a cat walked by and maybe spooked them, that's not usually enough to get them to stop laying. If you move them from one cage to another, that is a stressful thing for them, and they will shut down and quit laying for a while. If you have lack of light down below about 14 hours a day, they're usually going to stop laying too. It may just so happen that she laid that one egg, and that was just the last egg she had in her system at the time. It doesn't really have anything to do with that stopping it. But anyway, Verna says, 25 square foot with only 19 birds. They will get territorial. They might get territorial. I've had birds. I've had 10 birds in let's see. My cages are 18 square feet. I've had 10 birds in there before and never had territorial issues. And then I've had, 10 birds in there before and had territorial issues with them. It's a possibility, but I don't know that I know what you're saying is if they have too much room, it's like they get bored and they can definitely get territorial. Whereas if you pack them a little bit denser, it kind of keeps everything in check. Yeah, that does help a little bit, but it's not a guarantee that you're going to have any kind of issues with territory. 19 in a 25 square foot pen sounds pretty good to me. I've done that plenty of times and not had problems. Yeah, it wouldn't hurt to get more, but you don't necessarily have to. Berna says, I just set the eggs in a turner outside of the incubator until I get what I want. Oh, well, yeah, you can do that too, especially in the wintertime when your house is probably staying around 65 degrees anyway. Perfect. Ken says, hey, Chris, Ken from St. Clair, Missouri. Are there requirements in Missouri for selling eggs and processed quail for human consumption? I'm sure there are. I don't do that, so I don't know what those actually are. I mean, I sell eggs. I don't think there's any rules for eggs. I mean, until you sell until you get huge numbers of them, and then the government's going to want their tax money. But I don't know what those regulations are exactly. I do sell eggs from time to time. There are technically regulations for selling meat for human consumption. I don't know what those are either. Specifically, I think it requires you to process them in a facility that is inspected. It has to be like inspected, FDA inspected or something like that. But I don't know the specifics of that. You're going to have to look that up. I don't actually sell that. Now, what you could do is you could sell them for pet food, and then they can do whatever they want with them. Or you can sell them to them live and then process them as a favor. You can do that. Kind of get around that. As long as you're not doing huge amounts of sales, you're probably going to be fine. You don't have to worry about it too much. If you start getting to where you're selling, a couple $1,000s a month or whatever, then somebody's going to notice that. They're going to come crack down on you for the regulations. But if you're selling, $100 a month worth or something like that, nobody's probably going to even know. Little Ridge Farm says, I lost my house. Oh, to Amy B says, I lost my house in a fire on the 26th, so my quail and rabbits are on hold to get started. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Little Ridge. I didn't know that. We'll pray for you for sure. That is terrible news. I wish there was some way we could help. I don't know if you have like a GoFundMe or something like that set up. We'll see what we can do. Ray says, since I'm keeping a light on the quail, we're getting plenty of eggs. The plan is to get some in the incubator just before Christmas. Well, good luck, Ray. I hope that it works out. No reason it shouldn't. So good luck with your hatch there. How are we doing on time? We got about 5 minutes left. All right. Blessed with Pets says, I lost that link. Blessed with Pets. Here, let me do this. You can't post links because you're not a moderator. Let me see if I can make you a moderator. Oh, wait, no, there it is. There, it posted up. Okay, so you can go to Little Ridge Farms channel. There is a link there for ways that people can help out. It's in the description of the video channel. So, yeah, everybody do that for us. Even if you can just give $1 or $2. I know it's Christmas time and it's difficult to, we're all financially strapped. I get that. You may not be able to give a lot, but a little bit's going to help. Just whatever you can do. Where were we at? Ken says, hey, Chris. Ken from St. Clair, Missouri. I already read that one, didn't I? And Ray says, since I'm keeping a light on the quail. Okay, I already read that one too. My goodness, I'm way behind here. Blessed with Pets says, I probably just need to get over keeping them in 30 by 36. It's the best way to keep them efficiently and to make some profit. Mine are 2 small breeds, Holland Lops and Mini Rexes. Well, there's no reason, again, like you shouldn't have to. There's no reason for you to, feel guilty about keeping them in smaller cages. But there's no reason if you want to give them bigger cages, give them bigger cages. There's nothing wrong with that either. Amy says, to Little Ridge Farm, are you okay? How can we help? Do you have a GoFundMe? Are you on freesteading? I don't know I'm not familiar with freesteading. Hey, Carolina, Kind Family Homestead. Good to see you guys. And Little Friend is working on the GoFundMe. Good. Little Ridge Farm says, it's hard for everyone, and I understand if someone can't help. Plus, it's the holiday season. Well, yeah, for sure it is. But, we can do something, I'm sure. Let me look this up so I can make sure. Is this... Here, let me find you real quick. Hang on just a second. I'm sorry. There we go. I'll take a look at that here in a little bit. See what we can do. John says, I'm the guy who's teaching every Thursday night and never get to be here, but was able tonight. I just want to say how much I enjoyed it. It was a hoot. Thank you for all you teach us. Well, thank you very much, John. I appreciate the kind comments, and thanks for joining us on your night off. Hopefully it wasn't any bad thing that caused the class to be canceled, but anyway, hopefully we get to see you again at some point. Amy says 30 by 36 is great for cage size. You can have a ground playpen to rotate them through. Yeah, you could definitely do that. Ray says, after rather disappointing late spring run on Cornish Cross, 100 plus degree weather, we had better run this fall and got all 25 over the finish line and processed over a 2-week period. Awesome. Yeah, I did terrible. Hey, there's the PayPal. Lorna posted it for us. She found it. Okay. So anyway, yeah, I thought I was too late. I just didn't get any Cornish Cross this year. Tried, every place was sold out, just couldn't find them. Need to get my order in earlier this year so I don't have that problem. Last year it was no problem. They were everywhere. And this year, no good. Blessed with Pets says, I just can't afford giving them the size I'd like to give them. That's okay. You will be able to someday. Be patient. You'll get there. Sage Wolf says, since it's getting colder, I would like to use those soot blocks for my quail for the extra energy. Which style do you think would work? There are so many different kinds. Boy, I don't know. I haven't even looked at what different kinds of soot blocks there are. And you're talking about the fat-based ones. Yeah, I figured out. I knew what you were talking about. So there's a link to that. Okay, we'll get to that here in just a little bit. Maybe we will. Are we still good? Are we still? I mean, that link, either that link didn't work or my internet's down again. I'm waiting for somebody to respond to tell me we're still good. Okay, we're good. Okay, good. I'll check that out here in a little bit. Yeah, the fat base, I try them out. I don't know which ones are the best ones. Honestly, I've never even thought about giving those to quail. Haven't seen if they would like them or not. Try them out and see. I don't know that any of them are going to be any better or worse than any of the others. And Little Ridge says, thank you all. You're welcome, Little Ridge. Whatever we can do to help. That's if we can help each other out a little bit, then it's all there. It may not be a lot, but whatever we can do, just a little bit here and there goes a long way. Amy B says Cornish Cross in the fall was great. No heat stress and fewer bugs at butcher time. Yeah, that probably makes sense. Yeah, Pat says there are YouTube videos on soot making. Yeah, that's true. There are. Let's see. And Ray says, I found that chickens absolutely love them. That makes sense. I never thought about that. Verna says, Chris, the worst I think would happen is there would be more fat on the birds. Yeah, well, there's nothing. Yeah, no problem with more fat on the birds. That wouldn't be a bad thing at all. So, how are we doing on time? Oh, look at that. I went overtime, didn't even realize it. So I should get this one wrapped up. I got to go to bed here in about an hour, a little over, and go spend some time with my wife before the end of the night. Thanks, guys, for being patient with me. All the internet problems I've been having, and lately I've not been as good about getting videos up. I'm doing better about responding to comments. Usually a couple of days, at least a couple of times a week, I get in there and try to respond to all the comments that have been on there. But thanks for being patient with the internet connection issues. Drives me crazy, very frustrating, but what can you do? So, all right. Don't see any reason why we won't be back next Thursday evening, and hopefully everybody has a great weekend. I guess weekend is what we're coming up with, and we'll see you guys there. As always, God bless.